I know, right? All right.
I'm going to vote for you totally.
Okay, great.
Totally.
Truth is
You
that
don't think about it.
I don't think I can handle the abuse.
All right, so let's get started. Let's see, go live.
What's the button?
All right, everyone, thank you for coming for this class on Mashiach and the rise of AI. So presumably, you know what AI stands for if you came to the class, but just in case, it stands for artificial intelligence. And already people are saying that this year is going to be the year of AI. Like this will be the most disruptive and basically we're at that stage where it's going to really break through, and they've been waiting for years and years for this. So this class is going to explain both what that means in terms of the emerging technologies, and also to put it into the landscape of world history, specifically of where we're headed in terms of what the Torah has to say about it. So this class is sponsored from my friend for a refuah shlema by Yerachmo Azriel ben Edel Shena. So you should have a refuah shlema. Also, this class is dedicated in memory of two people. We're actually between the yortzites of both of them. So the first is my father, whose first yortzeit was last week. And so his name's Chuna Leib ben Shlomo. So Chuna Leib ben Shlomo. So when you say blessings, to have in mind my father. And also, we're going to explain at the second portion of the class, the other person that the class is dedicated in memory of. His name is Aaron Hillel ben Avraham Yechiel. And this is going to be on the 29th of Teves, his 10th yortzeit. So we're gonna explain him as well. So the first thing is that my father was a computer programmer. So the idea of robotics and AI and technology, this is something that I grew up with. And I got permission from my mother to borrow, I have to give it back, one of the punch cards that my father used in the 1960s at the Burroughs Corporation.
You said Burroughs?
Burroughs,
Okay.
Burroughs Corporation. So this is, my mother only has a few of them, so I have to give it back. But this is, she gave this one to me because it has more punches than the other ones. So just to see how in a short span of time, we've gone from this to some of the things that we're going to be discussing tonight. At that time, he was learning, they were programming in Fortran and then COBOL and all of these old languages that provided for me and my family. So one of my father's favorite films was the science fiction film The Day the Earth Stood Still, the original one from 1951. And I was talking with my mother before the talk tonight, and trying to see why, maybe some ideas of why that was one of my father's favorite films. And I came with the idea that my father was very responsible. He wanted everyone to be safe and happy. And that was kind of the theme of the movie, where we have all these emergent technologies. And what do we do with it? Are we going to be responsible? Are we going to have it be for the benefit of mankind? Or the opposite? So that's just a little bit of a background about, we think of, we have happy, positive, helpful robots like Rosie of the Jetsons. And then you have, obviously, lots and lots of movies where the robots are taking over and killing everyone. So we're going to explain a little bit about the advances of technology, but also to focus on the positive side of how this is helping to move the world forward. So I was in in synagogue before giving this class. I had like a practice version of the class. They call it the dress rehearsal. And I was in synagogue that morning, and these people were talking about how robots are being used to deliver packages. They're also being used as assistants, like for elderly people to dispense medications. And it seems like more and more you're having conversations that are somehow related to the advances of technology. So this is all happening very, very fast. Just in November, we're going to be talking about something called ChatGPT. Has anyone heard of ChatGPT? So they launched in November. According to a December 29th article, they already have well over 1 million users, and they've already been valued at $29 billion. This is from November. So talk about fast. That's pretty fast.
Wow.
So, and every day, I mean, I've been looking at articles in preparation for this talk, but every day there's tons of articles about ChatGPT. And it's what is it? It's a chatbot, which in the past you had certain types of rudimentary technologies. You know, people are familiar with Siri and Alexa. So this is like the next generation. This actually, you give it prompts and it'll actually write your article for you. It'll actually we're going to go into detail about some of the things that it actually can do, but this really much needs to be understood, and it's a question that is on people's minds as, well, what is left for us humans to do, right?
Why is Hashem even bringing into the world at this point?
Right, so being as what people are saying, that we're in the year of AI, we need to focus on what that actually means and what that means for us as humans. So if you want to know how to overcome robots, you want to know how a human is better than a robot, you have to play them at their own game. So you ask the robot themselves, how am I better than you? So this is what I did. I asked ChatGPT, what are those things that differentiate a human from a robot? And this whole talk, the first part of the talk tonight, is based on the answer that they gave me. So I'm going to hand out ChatGPT's answer to my question, and my question's at the top. And sure, yeah, do that side, and there you go. There you go. Okay. So they came up with 5 answers, and remarkably, I'm assuming they don't know this, but they're very Kabbalistic in their knowledge, because this corresponds to 5 categories, according to Kabbalah, of why humans are humans and not robots. So we're going to go one by one, not in the same order that they presented, but this is where we turn to the robot to come up with the material of a class showing how humans are better than robots. So that's kind of ironic, yes. Okay. So much of the material from tonight is from a class. Actually, it was a very popular class from Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, my teacher, called Painting the Portrait of Mashiach. And this class has been viewed by like 17,000 people, one of his most popular YouTube classes. And I was listening to the class, writing notes, and then I realized that this idea of painting the persona or imagining the portrait of Mashiach very much is relevant to our topic today. If we imagine the ultimate human, the ultimate person, well, this is Mashiach, this is the Messiah himself. So if we want to understand what it means to be human, we have to look at this figure of Mashiach. So we're going to go according to 5 different aspects of Mashiach. So one of them, first we're going to read from number 3. So creativity and problem solving. This is again ChatGPT's answer of what makes a human. Creativity and problem solving. Humans are capable of creative and abstract thought, which allows them to come up with novel solutions to problems. Robots are able to follow a set of instructions or algorithms, but they are not capable of the same level of creativity as humans. So the words that really stood out to me are to come up with novel solutions, right? Computers are probabilistic, right? They see what the most, based on the facts on the ground, they come up with a solution that to them is an outcome that makes sense logically, but humans are beyond that, right? And this relates to the ability to experience wonder or to celebrate life, which relates to the superconscious sphera, the divine channel of Keter, of crown. So this idea that Mashiach is the most wondrous soul on earth, the most wondrous person on earth. So the Alter Rebbe of Chabad, the first Rebbe of Chabad, would say that the Mashiach that everyone is expecting is never going to come, and the true Mashiach that nobody really expects is going to be a total surprise. So we all have in our lives, we have these, like on our birthdays, anniversaries, we have this ability to celebrate life and to surprise even God. We have a happy day that's called Tu B'Av, which is a day where we match up singles. It's a day of celebration. And it comes just days after the saddest day in the calendar of Tisha B'Av, when both temples were destroyed. So this ability to choose life, to choose to be happy, to choose joy in our lives, it can even be a surprise to God, as it were, because He's giving us that ability to have free will. And that's something that a robot doesn't have. This ability also to have a sense of wonder and curiosity for life, but also to celebrate life. So that was the first stage, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit more about that. Let's go to the second one. So the second one is from ChatGPT's answer, is number 1. So this is consciousness. Humans are conscious beings with self-awareness, thoughts and feelings, while robots do not have consciousness or self-awareness. So consciousness in Kabbalah is da'at. There's 3 translations for da'at. One of them is knowledge. One of them is perception, to be perceptive on the world. And the third one is to be conscious. That a robot can never know you. A robot can never identify with you and really understand you. And ultimately, it comes down to the emotions. A robot can never empathize with you, can never feel for you and connect with you. The da'at in the Bible is used also for marital relations. Adam knew Eve. But it's also a teacher-student, this connection of getting to really know someone and getting to really connect on a very deep level. So the Mashiach is not just someone who knows a lot. He's the one that connects with the most souls, connects with the most people. Now, if we think of someone that would remember details from having previously seen a person years or decades ago, we think one example is the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The people would come in Sunday dollars, and maybe it was years, decades since the Rebbe last saw this person, and he would remember the person. He would recognize the person. So this comes from empathy, but also comes from knowledge. But it's more than just a supercomputer, more than just having all this information. It's using it to connect and to relate to people. And there's a hakara, there's a recognition. Like we think of computers, that they access their stored memory, right? But what do they do with it, right? They can spin out some more information. But to really connect, use it as a tool to connect with someone, So that's something that's specific to a teacher, to an educator, to a parent, to anyone that's trying to really get their message across and really to connect with another soul. So we have this book on art of education, one of the Rabbi Ginsburg's books. So there he explains hakara, he explains recognition, and it's the ability to identify and to feel an affinity for a person. And this distinguishes a great leader. Someone who really identifies and is really has this deep love and connection and feeling of wanting to be connected to people and care and concern for people. So one of the ways that we draw people in is by means of a story. So for some time I wanted to, one of the projects, I have a lot of projects. One of the projects I had was to do a graphic novel that these two kids, they go into the woods and they find an abandoned wagon, and it turns out to be the Baal Shem Tov's wagon. And many of us know there's all the stories about the Baal Shem Tov's wagon, how it would travel all to far off places throughout the world on these mitzvah missions, or these missions to help people. So for this class, I put together this short story. So I'm gonna read it, and then we'll talk about it and what this means for AI and for ChatGPT. Once upon a time, there were two friends, Avi and Leah, who lived in a small village in Eastern Europe. They had always dreamed of seeing the world and helping people in need, but they never had the opportunity to leave their village. This is the story time portion of the class. One day, while exploring the forest surrounding their village, they stumbled upon a strange old wagon hidden behind some bushes. The wagon was covered in dust and cobwebs, but Avi and Leah could tell that it was once a beautiful and ornately decorated carriage. As they explored the wagon, they found a strange book hidden under the seat. It was a journal written by the Baal Shem Tov, a famous rabbi and healer who lived many years ago. The journal contained stories of the Baal Shem Tov's travels and how he used the wagon to visit distant lands and help people in need. Avi and Leah were fascinated by the stories in the journal, and they knew that they had to follow in the Baal Shem Tov's footsteps, so they climbed aboard the wagon and set off on an adventure to help those in need. The wagon was old and creaky, but it was also enchanted and seemed to guide them to the people who needed their help the most. Avi and Leah traveled through forests and across mountains, using the skills and knowledge they had learned in their village to heal the sick and bring joy to those who were suffering. As they traveled, they met many people who were grateful for their help, and Avi and Leah knew that they were fulfilling their dreams of making a difference in the world. They continued to travel for many months, using the Baal Shem Tov's wagon as their home and guide, until they finally returned to their village, tired but fulfilled. From that day on, Avi and Leah were known as the kind and generous friends who had followed in the footsteps of the Baal Shem Tov, using the power of kindness and compassion to bring joy to those in need. It's pretty good. What do you think of it?
I can't wait.
Very nice.
I can't wait for this book to come out.
Can they come clean my house?
So, I have a little admission to make.
I can't wait to see the pictures.
So this was actually written by ChatGPT.
You're so cute.
Wow.
So the only prompt I did was write me a short adventure about two friends finding the Baal Shem Tov's wagon and riding on it to distant lands to help people in need.
Wow.
Wow, that's
Can I have the GBT, please? Can I have the full name?
Like ready to write a college essay with it.
Seriously. What's the full name?
ChatGPT, and it's openai.com.
ChatGPT.
GPT.
Yeah, I've read that it will be difficult for teachers now to give writing assignments for students to do it at home, because they can just tell ChatGPT to write their assignments for them.
So
Automatic A's, it's going to be
so as of a week
meaningless.
Is it chat or chat?
chat.
Chat.
So as of a week ago, this college student actually came out with an app called ChatGPT 0 to detect plagiarism. I used to good effect. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but I think it did a good job on the sample that I did. So this is pretty astounding, right? So what's left for us, right? Just go on vacation, everyone. Okay, let's see what this really means for us.
Well, if I can
Yes.
interject, my son is a computer engineer, and he was telling me he used ChatGPT to generate documentation for his code, and it was like working very well for him. So I said, how about if we just try something? So we did this on Zoom and share screen. I asked him to ask ChatGPT, how do you value business? That's what I do for a living. And it gave an answer. I would say, if you didn't know anything about valuation, you would say A+. But if you do, C-.
It's learning more and more all the time.
Yeah, so it was, it's not
Not yet.
It's
but
not
yeah.
ready for prime time and everything.
Right.
Okay, good.
My son-in-law, Zahavadan Yohim he asked for direct Torah on the Parsha. And he said, like, it was pretty good. There was some, like, same thing. Like, there were some, things that weren't correct. But also in terms of drawings, which I was learning how to use in terms of being a graphic designer. It's amazing. These pictures that just coming out with, it's just unbelievable.
So we're going to have a few more examples, and also going to start explaining a little bit more what's left for us. Okay, so we have here, this is pretty funny, but it's supposed to be a robot playing a piano and making a song. It's kind of funny, but so this article said, well, ChatGPT can make songs, right? So what does this mean? So we turn it back to Mashiach. We're going to this painting of the portrait of Mashiach from this class that Rabbi Ginsburg put together. And he says that Mashiach is also the greatest musician. What does it mean that Mashiach is the greatest musician? Is that every soul has a song according to our soul root. There's 600,000 soul roots of the Jewish people, and Mashiach knows the soul root of each and every individual person. So this is something that a robot wouldn't know a person's soul root, right? They wouldn't know. If you ask the ChatGPT, what's my song, right? What do you mean? What's my song? I can make a song for you, but I can't make your song. Right? That's the thing that we're explaining about knowing the person, knowing the student, the person who's asking these questions. So that's another another and this leads into the fourth thing. We're going. We skipped around a bit, but now we're on number 4. So this is we asked the robot, how are we better than you? So number 4 says, empathy and emotional intelligence. Humans are capable of empathy, or the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. They also have emotional intelligence, which allows them to recognize and manage their own emotions and those of others. Robots do not have the ability to experience or understand emotions. So we explained that knowledge, that consciousness is, when it goes down and is experienced in the emotions, the most central emotion is empathy, is rachamim, to really care for others. The external, there's the 2 dimensions of the sphere of Tiferet, which is beauty. So the Mashiach is also the most beautiful person. What does that mean? Is that a person who is beautiful, you want to be like that person, you're attracted to that person. Specifically the Torah, the teachings of this person are beautiful teachings. So a person is attracted, wants to be like that person. So again, we're talking about a story, like a story of a tzaddik, of a righteous person, righteous man or woman, that you want to be like that person in that tzaddik, right? You want to emulate, you want to identify with that person, and also ultimately it should inspire you to grow and to develop spiritually. So this is this is what a computer is lacking. Even if it can create a story, it should ultimately motivate a person to grow. I mean, that was a very nice story, but it wasn't speaking specifically to me, right? And we're going to explain that there can be tools that are helpful, right? That save time, that make it easier. Technology has been doing that for many years, right? Since the invention of from Noah in the plow, it's making it easier, so there's more time to study and to learn Torah. But ultimately, to know what specifically a person needs to hear, what specific words and ideas need to be shared, that's something that that a teacher is able to do. And also when we read about stories of the tzaddikim, the righteous Jewish men and women, it inspires us.
And just point out that you're going down the center line of the
Right.
spheros.
Right, the center line. So we started off at Keter, specifically the highest of Keter, which is Radlah, or the faith within Keter, which is the ability to experience wonder. And then down to Da'at, which is consciousness, or connection. And then down to Tiferet, which is empathy. And so then we're going to get to Yesod and Malchut, or foundation and kingship soon. So we are at the center axis of the tree of life model of the Sfirot. Right. So there's the other thing that they say that ChatGPT can do, and that these chatbots can do, is to write a book. And here you have I don't know what the robot is doing exactly, but so they say that they can also write books, right? So in another class of Rabbi Ginsburg on the unification of the Sfirot, he explains a bit of practical advice that if you want to write a bestseller, you have to have love and courage, or some type of a person is motivated by some type of longing or love, which is on the right side of the tree of life Sfirot. That's called chesed, or love and kindness. And on the left side is Gevura, might, severity. So you have this hero of your story, this protagonist of your story, that has both of these aspects, love and courage. But we explained that what is a computer-written novel missing? It's the empathy, right? It's the middle, it's the tiferet, it's the beauty, it's what attracts you to the hero of the story. It's what makes you identify with the person of the story. Many of the criticisms of AI books that they're already making, children's books, and they're already starting to do this, is that they seem very flat. You're not really entering, engaging with the character. Right? They could be saying all the right things, but there's something missing, and that something missing, we know what that is. That's tiferet. That's the ability, and coming from Da'at, it's the ability to connect, engage the reader, and also the ability to identify with the hero of the story, and to feel like you can see yourself in this person. So that's another thing, is that they can write songs, but they can't write your song. They can write a book, but they can't write a book for you. Right? Maybe a textbook, maybe something informational, but nothing that is going to speak to a person. Doesn't have heart, right? Right. It's the body, but not the soul. Right. So they can help with the body. They can help with crafting the words, like you just saw the story. But it needs to be edited at the very least, and that means from start to finish. Like, in order to really bring it out, and maybe it needs to be tossed entirely. And it remains to be seen how much it's going to actually save time. But something that's a Torah discourse, something that's really needs to penetrate people's souls and really reach from coming from a place of truth. The way that I understood it is as follows: you have many fictional tales; they have true elements to the story. So the landscape is some fictional story, but you're sharing some true messages within that story. So then maybe it would help, right? But if you're dealing with, in the world of nonfiction, especially with Torah teachings, from start to finish, it has to be from a person. That's the way that I would explain it. Okay. So now we go to number 5. Okay. Adaptability and learning. Humans are able to learn and adapt to new situations and environments, while robots are limited by their programming. Humans are also able to learn and improve their skills over time, while robots can only perform tasks within their capabilities. So this is a very important one, and previously when I asked similar questions a couple weeks ago, another way that they explained it was that a human is better at decision making. So this is in a class, a Yutes Kislev, 19th of Kislev class from about 2 weeks ago. Rabbi Ginsburg had a wonderful gathering. It lasted around 6 hours in Israel, in Jerusalem. And about 2,500 people were there. It was amazing with dancing and singing and lots of Torah. And in one of the portions of the evening was called the Partsuf, or the whole system of God's advice. The system for understanding how it is that God gives a person advice. Right? And we're going to understand what that means. It's called Eitzas Havaya, God's advice. So he brings these 2 verses. The first is from Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 21. For anyone that would like to write that down. Rabos machashavos belev ish, v'atzas Hashem hisakum. There are many thoughts in man's heart, but God's opinion will prevail. So again, that's from Proverbs 19:21.
Daily davening? Or maybe it's the Shabbos davening or something?
No, it's daily.
It's daily davening.
Okay, so the second verse is from Ecclesiastes, Koheles. And this is from chapter 7, verse 29. Ha'elokim es ha'adam yashar v'hima vikshu chish vonos rabim. God has made man straight, and they seek many machinations. So, what are we explaining about AI? Is that every time I could have generated this story about the Baal Shem Tov's wagon over and over and over again. Every time it would be something different. But there's no one story that needed to be heard. The robot would never know that. But we as humans know what words, what specific teachings, or what even story needs to be conveyed at a specific time. What does it mean to be better at decision making? It means that at any given time, there's any number of thoughts that come to us, any number of things that we could do, and we have to trust in God that He's helping us to choose the correct one, right? And ultimately, it's with the thought that God's opinion will prevail. That God is trying to, in various ways, as explained in this class, God is trying to send us these messages. And either he implants it in us, or if we just listen, we can hear these messages. You know, if we tune out the static, right, then we could be sensitive to this, right? Whereas a robot will just give you all the options you want, but not tell you that one answer that you need to hear at that time. So this transition from many thoughts to the one thought that is God's thought that will prevail in the person, in the heart of the person, will penetrate the heart of the person. That relates to the difference between Avram and Avraham. Right? Abraham before the circumcision and after, when he got the extra hay in his name. So Avram before. So the initial letters of Rabos Machashavos Belev Ish. There are many thoughts in man's heart. The initial letters of that spell Avram. And the extra hey that's taking Abraham above the constellations, above the astrological considerations, from a vantage point above the workings of the world, right? When you're dealing with the world, there's many, many options. But you have to come from a place above the world to look down, and together with God, you are coming up with the one way forward, with the one thought forward. So this is the difference between Avram and Avram. It's and how does this relate to the sphera, the divine channel of Yesod, a foundation? That's exactly what Rabbi Ginsburg explains. This is the revelation of what's called in Kabbalah a Tereta Yesod, the crown of foundation, the crown of the Brit Milah, of the circumcision. And this is the ability to make that one specific contact point with reality, of acting upon that one good thought that God is trying to send us. So this is something that only a human could do. They call it decision making. What do we call it? We call it the circumcising ourselves. And there's 3 levels of circumcision. There's circumcising our lips, our heart, and our Brit Milah, our in marital relations, to have holy thoughts in terms of our marital life. So our lips, that's speaking words of truth, right? We already talked a lot about what it means to circumcise our heart. That means to actually care about people. And then you have, in marriage, you have a loving, loyal, dedicated relationship for the sake of having children. So this is the difference between Avram and Avraham, and the difference between having many thoughts and that one thought that we're moving forward with. So that was a very, very profound and important part of that class. It's on YouTube. It was transcribed real time in English. So anyone who would like a link to that, I could send it to you. So an advisor, someone who's in an advising position, and that's all of us. People come, anyone could benefit from some helpful, cheerful advice, some positive advice. So it's feeling that I need to produce that one thought that person needs to hear at this time. And that willingness to help another person, that's one sure way for that good thought from God to come through us as a conduit to this person. It's to be other focused, to be there for the other person. So that's the good advice that we can give ourselves, is that we need to be there for other people. We also have to give ourselves good advice. So we give ourselves good advice, that we should be able to give good advice to others. Okay. So now we're going up to the end, up almost to the second stage of this class. So we're going to read number 2. And the robot got totally wrong. The other 4 was more or less okay. This one is completely off. I'll read it, but it's completely off. Physical abilities. Robots are typically able to perform tasks that are physically demanding or repetitive with a high degree of accuracy and speed, but they are limited by their physical design and capabilities. Humans have a much wider range of physical abilities and can adapt to new environments and tasks more easily. So if you're just talking about physical activity like manual labor, this is not future-proof, right? Eventually robots will be able to do it better. If you're just talking about some type of physical things. But we're going to explain it in terms of the final sphera, final divine channel of Malchut, of kingship, that the thing that we can do is ultimately to build the world and make the world better. And that, for us, that's what it means to do things that our physical actions are better. Our physical actions are better because we reveal the divine in the world. That's why our physical actions are better, not because we can screw the thing tighter than a robot right now. Give it a few months, the robot will be able to do that better. It's because we reveal the divine in the world through our actions. So we're going to go into that. So we are talking about Mashiach, talking about the Redeemer, and ultimately it's for the sake of, there's a great search, right? A lot of the advances in technology in recent years have been around search of trying to really map out knowledge, map out all the questions that we're having. But now we're reaching really a new era of needing to really understand all of what's around us. And you're going to have everyone being inundated with all this AI generated stuff, books, screenplays, music, movies. Eventually they're going to be making. Everything is going to be affected by this. And the need to really sort through it all and to make sense of the world is going to reach the highest. They're going to be swimming in content. This is unparalleled. And we really have to understand where this is all coming from. They're expecting the next version of ChatGPT. Right now they're using 175 billion parameters to come up with their answers. I don't know what a parameter is, but some type of guidance that they use.
It's like a step in the algorithm, maybe?
I'm not sure exactly.
A parameter is it's an input to a model. So let me see. I'll keep
Sure.
talking.
It's like
I'll
steps
try.
it has to
I'll,
go through.
I'll try to think of it as
Okay.
a
Who's
specific
creating
example.
this and who are the creators of all this?
So it's open AI. It's an open source program, but it's been funded by all the main players. Elon Musk and Microsoft gave $1 billion, and Microsoft is planning on using it in their search, in their Bing search, and also in Microsoft Word. They're planning on using it. So it's all the big players have been giving billions into this, and it's really
So how do they plan on
Intelligence
recouping their
agency.
investment? Or that's,
I'm not sure exactly. But so the next iteration they're saying is going to have, they're estimated at 1 trillion parameters. So already, this was just launched in November. They're already talking about the next iteration going to 1 trillion.
Are they crowdsourcing, meaning all these different users are contributing content?
It's openai.com. I don't know if it's fully open source, but it's I don't
Like,
understand.
can I go in there and submit, like, if someone says, what's the meaning of life, I'll say to Hashem's will. Like, you know what I mean? Like, can I create a parameter and then, like, can we program it to reveal godliness in the world and spread the blessings? Right? Not like, why is it here for us? Why did Hashem create a path and use it?
Right. I actually did that. I did, what is the Kabbalah of 137, which is something that Rabbi Ginsburg has talked about extensively, but most other people haven't. And there's like a whole book. It's like, we have a lot of material on that subject, but not so much in the world. So I asked them that, and I found where they got it from some other source, but it wasn't Rabbi Ginsburg's source. Yeah. When you ask very obscure questions, it's easier to find out where they got it from. Yeah.
Like, does it do like a web search? Like, so you look up something and does it kind of like do a web search and like, here's the key terms and key things related to that?
I don't know all of what goes into it, but it's
Sci-fi. And seriously, like, and exponentially things are moving, like time's moving, like it feels like time, some things, like, you know,
like
things are moving like
very, very fast. I mean, I gave the first version of the class Wednesday. Between Wednesday,
Say Kriyat Shema and Tehillim 91.
The robots are taking over.
yeah, the robots are taking over during the class.
is that
So-
robot machshavot?
So between Wednesday and today, which is
reminded every night.
That's great. Very valuable.
between Wednesday and Sunday, there's just been so much that was the fact that it was valued at 29 billion. That was just in the past few days. Just yeah. So when we are talking about kingdom, about Malchut, and we're going to start understanding the main thing of where to take it from here, right? Where do we take this from here? Where do we go from here? So Malchut is the ability to mirror. That you see a person and you see yourself in that person. You see yourself in the tzaddik, in this righteous person or you feel like the tzaddik is speaking to you even though there's hundreds of other people around. So it says of Queen Esther, from the story of Purim, that everyone felt that she came from their nation. That's what it says. Everyone felt that they knew which nation she came from. And it's because she reflected what they were giving off, right? So ultimately, the king has this charisma and charm, but it's also ultimately he's reflecting back that which you need to hear, and he's just this guidepost, this symbol of godliness in the world, reflecting back what you need to hear in order to grow, in order to develop. So this really takes us to what's probably the most exciting part of this class, and this was actually inspired. This is 10 years in the making. So the person that I had mentioned in the beginning, there's obviously my father, and the other person is Aaron Hillel ben Avraham Yechiel. So his name was Aaron Swartz. Anyone heard of Aaron Swartz? Anyone? He's a technophile. May have. He was a co-founder of Reddit. You've heard of him, and he was just beloved by his peers for fostering and really promoting an open thought, open source community. And so he got into some trouble, as many idealists are. He hacked into the servers at MIT, and he downloaded thousands and thousands of JSTOR academic journals, which is, those are the type of journals that are hidden behind a paywall, but academics need in order to source them for their papers. No one knows exactly what he was planning to do with it, whether to release it to the internet or not, but he had...
Caught, obviously, right?
What's that?
He got caught.
He got caught, and he ultimately had a very deliberate prosecuting team that was really going after him. He refused to plea bargain. He was facing up to... I believe it was 30 years in prison, $1 million in fines. It was a whole thing. He was trying to be a symbol for again, because he was an idealist. He was trying to be a symbol for promoting open access to information, right? Which is what we're experiencing now. We're experiencing what Isaiah called the flood of knowledge, of the knowledge of God. And so he wasn't religious, but he was Jewish, and he had this feeling that he wanted to promote knowledge in a very, very open way. And maybe he didn't go about it in the right way, but his heart was in the right place. And ultimately, the pressure of these 2 years with lawyers and all of it, it just got too much for him. And so he left this world when he was 26.
Wow.
Wait, he was involved in a court case and he happened to supposedly kill himself?
So
he was a very special individual, and it's very unfortunate. Sometimes reality hits the ones that are most sensitive the hardest. And so I was living in a suburb of Philadelphia some months before moving to Israel. This was January 13th of 2013. And I had an app that at the time I was writing articles, a lot of articles on Torah and science, Torah and technology. So I would have an app that would put together some interesting technology and science articles. So I would save it and I would write about a lot of them. So I wrote several hundred articles ultimately. A lot of them were published on jewishpress.com and other places. And all based pretty much on Rabbi Ginsburg's teachings. And I had a lot of fun with it. But when I was scrolling, going on this morning walk, I didn't know Aaron, but when I saw the news of his passing, it just gripped me. And I subsequently wrote some articles about open source idealism, what it means to spread knowledge in a free and open way, where it's not everything is copyrighted and trademarked, and that you have this free exchange of information. And I feel like those were the most profound articles I ever wrote, because I was doing it, me knowing the context of Torah, trying to place his ambitions in the world of the holiness of Torah, right? And unfortunately, he wasn't so consciously aware of that context, so I was trying to provide that. Unfortunately, it was after the fact. And so this idea of where we're going to explain a topography of concepts, of you really mapping out the entire landscape of knowledge, was inspired from 10 years ago. After his passing, I started writing a lot of articles about this, and it was just a fascination for me. And I kept, and now this was years before all this AI technology that has really made it so much more understandable and clear for people. This is like what I was trying to explain then. Now it's much, much more clear. So I'm glad I just sat on. Sometimes you need to sit on things, and sit on it for some years until the world catches up with you, because the Torah is always ahead. So you have to wait, sometimes to wait for the world to catch up. So the first thing I would like to explain is that we were talking about ChatGPT in terms of text, right? Now we're going to talk about the world of images. So there's one of the AI tools that's also very, very popular is Midjourney. So Midjourney is a text to image tool. It's run on the Discord server, so anyone can sign up and get 25 free images and try it out. I did. It was pretty fun. You can just type in anything, any text, and it'll come up with an image. So this is screenshots from a Vox video explaining Midjourney. So here they have a banana. So you have this grouping of word associations with a banana, right? So you have peel, slip, breakfast, cereal, strawberry, pineapple, mango, apple, plantain. These are just different associations to this word. So this is just very rudimentary, but this is the very beginning stages of what is going to be what's called the formation of a partsuf, which we've been discussing in Kabbalah. To have a complete system according to the 10 sfirot is a partsuf, which means you're creating a whole conceptual framework for whatever you want in the world. Everything has this framework. It's all, and there's different ways to approach the partsuf. So one of it is how is it used? How are bananas used, right? So you create a whole conceptual framework around all the uses for a banana. So once you abstract from the actual thing itself, and you're starting to have this concept. So this is just two-dimensional, right? You're just talking about a banana. Well, how does this interact with the rest of the world? I'm glad you asked. So they've come up with 500 coordinates where you have clusters. You have things that are smooth, things that are yellow, things that are food, things that are breakfast food. You can really zoom in on it, or no matter how detailed you want to go, you can go. But they've come to 500 clusters of anything you can imagine in the world based on how we view it and how we search it. And you have an elephant, and you have elephants are gray. They have wherever they live, and they have, so you have, but ultimately there's 500 clusters, concept clusters. And that number 500 is going to be important. Why? Because ultimately it should be 1,000. Why should it be 1,000? Well, we're talking about Mashiach, right? The figure of Mashiach. Of Moses, it said that with the light of Torah, he shined 1,000 lights, 1,000 lights. You get the right. So the ability to reflect the Torah, to shine, we talked about malchut, of kingship, being that we look into it and we see ourselves back, right? So it's an interface to understand ourselves. So that 500 of mapping out everything, of mapping out all knowledge in the world and all things in the world, we have to turn that into 1,000. So we're beginning to understand. We're going to begin to explain how we do that, and it's through this point of malchut, of kingship, which is going to reflect back to us the other 500. It's like looking in the mirror. So we have this 500 clusters, and we're going to see the other 500 from the other side of the mirror. So let's explain further. Before we do that, we have to go. We had one parsuf. We had this two-dimensional. So they're beginning to understand, and again, this is very basic, but they're going to get there. And it's our job to explain to them what they're missing. So they're starting to map it out in 3 dimensions. And this is also from the Vox video explaining, again, this text to image app called Midjourney. So you have here, it's a little hard to see, but you have here 3 dimensions. One is a dimension of roundness. One is a dimension of shininess. So things that are not very shiny and things that are very shiny. And then things that are yellowness. So things that, the more over here is the more yellow you get.
What was the first one?
Roundness. So you have like the taco is round, and then you have shininess. I guess they think the elephant is shiny. This is just the Vox video artist explaining. This is not from AI. This is an actual human explaining the AI text to art program. And so they're starting to understand this in terms of a mapping of a landscape of how everything is connected in the world, right? It's all a manifestation of the oneness of God, right? Everything is connected, and the more things we have, the more we go back to that oneness of God. And they're starting to very rudimentary, but they're starting to get there and understand that, hey, wait a minute, everything's connected. But what do we do with that? How do we navigate through this world, starting to appreciate that everything is connected?
So I'm not following. So how are they finding out that things are connected? Through finding similarities, like in all things that are round, all things that are shiny.
Right. So
points,
right. So they're
is that what you're talking
right. So they're explaining how the computer thinks, and the computer reduces all images down to zeros and ones, right? And they're seeing the similarity based on the patterns. And based on the binary code between all these millions and millions of images, they've come up to 500 clusters of similarities based on word association. So back in 2015, they started automated image captioning, that with the computer sees an image and they automatically write a text of what's in the image. Like this would be elephant, taco, bus, right? So a computer has been able to do that since 2015. Now what they're doing is mapping out these millions and millions of images and pulling out the similarities between all of them. It's called diffusion. The process is called diffusion.
Sorry.
Is it related to, like, if you see a color wheel, like sometimes when you're trying to pick a certain color, things will go from white at one point, and then you can go this direction, you'll get closer to green, and if you're halfway in between, it'll be like a lighter shade of green. And so is it something like that where it's kind of mapping out all the possibilities of colors, and so depending on where you move
Right.
in that circle?
Right, it has to pick out one of those options that is best when working in tandem with another option. Right, exactly. And then working with another option. So one of the examples they used was a banana snow globe. Right? So there is any number of images of bananas, any number of images from snow globes, and like you can choose a style from like the 1960s. So you have any number of images of 1960s snow globes. And you have to somehow make sense of all that and put it together. And every time you generate it, it'll be something different. So there's no one right option. That's what we're discussing. It's just things, but they're starting to put together all these different things that initially were by themselves and see what the commonalities are and put them all together.
Create a relationship.
Right.
And the ultimate thing, ideally, I don't know if they think of this, but is this where it's going, to show the unity of Hashem and everything?
Right.
Is that basically, yeah.
Right. So if we're beginning to understand that everything's connected, then the next thing is, well, what is connecting everything? And so we have the figure that's the persona of Mashiach is the one who is the most human of any human around. So that's showing us what it means to be a human. But ultimately, if it's for the sake of revealing that everything is connected and it's all a manifestation of the oneness. That there's that oneness that is holding everything together, and it's all just a manifestation of oneness, right? So we're going to give out another handout, and again we're getting from the 500 to 1,000. So we need some type of interface, which in Kabbalah is called avodas hayichudim. We're making unifications. What are we making the unifications on? Anyone take a guess?
Hashem's name.
Opposites? Good.
Physical and spiritual.
Physical and spiritual. Right. And we call it Torah and science, which is, according to the Zohar, they called it the higher waters of divine wisdom and the lower waters of man-made wisdom. And they're kissing. It's one of the preludes to Mashiach, is that the two kiss. And that point of kissing is that relationship that we have with God in our communication, in our speech, in our prayers. And that relationship with God is what's doubling the 500 to the 1,000 lights of Torah. So this is from Rabbi Ginsburg started teaching this in years ago, over 40 years ago. This is called the Torah Academy model. And so he explains the whole system, as we've been talking about it, the whole system of the Sfirot, the whole Partsuf, according to human, the areas of human knowledge and the natural sciences. So we have the faith in Torah is just faith in Torah. Then we have the arts, we have mathematics, corresponds to wisdom. We have the exact sciences, corresponds to understanding. Then psychology is knowledge. This is all, the Nefesh Academy is all psychology. And then we have, which sometimes this relates to Bina. So sometimes this is in understanding, the psychology. Then we have the social sciences, law, medicine, education, economics, communication sciences, and the political science. So most of our talk today is on communication sciences and technology. So no matter what a person is interested in, they could find out how it relates to this model, and that's like the gateway into exploring this galaxy, this interrelation between everything. Right? It's like the lens or the gateway into this whole system of seeing how everything is interconnected. That's called the Torah Academy, where the ability to really to navigate and to ultimately to make sense or to unite the higher wisdom with the lower wisdom.
This stuff again was own Kiddush, or this is just sourced from Zohar or from other Kabbalah?
This is one of Rabbi Ginsburg's fundamental teachings.
That means his own Kiddushim, or he kind of sourced it from Kabbalistic.
I mean, everything is sourced. He's been teaching this for over 40 years.
Actually, so you actually have, he has economics here under acknowledgement, which I presume is Hod.
Right.
What's the logic behind
So I can send you links. There's pages and there's a whole book. There's many books. All of these is we talk about plumbing the depths and really going deeper and deeper. Well, each of these is discussed at length over the years. And this is. But we need to have models. We need to understand how to navigate. And so more and more, there's going to be seen this need for people that are going to help to navigate. So in 1959, Peter Drucker, he was a management expert, so he said that you have something called a knowledge worker. What did he call a knowledge worker? So this is actually, I saw this in a December 6th New York Times article. It says, the title of the article is, "Does ChatGPT mean robots are coming for the skilled jobs?" What's the title of the article? So he quoted there that this phrase knowledge workers from 1959 that was coined by Peter Drucker, who was a very famous management consultant. And there he classified it as people that are engaged in non-repetitive problem solving. But here we're explaining really what is a knowledge worker, someone who can make the interface between Torah and science, of explaining the other side of these 500 clusters, and making sense of it all. They're going to hit the ceiling. They're already saying in 2026 they're going to hit the ceiling. They're not going to be able to advance any further with these chatbots. They're already understanding this. That there's only so far you can go. You can write great stories or effective stories, effective textbooks, effective music, effective this, effective that, but it's only half of the story. You're missing the other half of the story. And so this is we can call it Torah teachers, Torah and science teachers, whatever you want to call it, but Peter Drucker, the initial word for this is a knowledge worker, which goes back to the prophecy of Isaiah. But if the world is filled with the knowledge of God, well, how do you swim through it? Like water covers the seabed. Well, you have to know how to swim. You have to know how to swim through it. So it's about helping people make these connections, and this is what I gave a class on healing your identity. I think I was here some months ago, of helping to people to make these connections and find their place in Torah, and connect their interests and pursuits and talents and ambitions in their place of Torah, that they could then explore that unification, that connection between those things they're interested in, and the place in Torah for that. And more, there's this awakening of people realizing it's just in the air. It's just like this feeling that things are connected. More so in the past, and I've heard this several times recently. There's an appreciation that they don't necessarily know how to explain it, but this feeling that things are connected. And so this is the idea, is that we should go from here to really, the ideal is a Torah academy where people, no matter what they're interested in, what discipline, they can connect it with Torah and find their place in Torah. So with that, I'll open if anyone has any questions. Yes?
Just make a comment. I just listened to a podcast this week that someone recommended to me about script writing. And the episode I chose happened to be talking about ChatGPT. And they read a scene and then they all laughed and they said it's so basic. It's so far right now, it's like what a very inexperienced screenwriter would write, like boring. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like missing the heart and soul.
Yeah, it's missing the heart and soul. Admittedly, when I gave this class the last time, I led before I read the story with the ChatGPT wrote this, but this time I wanted to see what the reactions were, and it was different. But it was a very basic story, but it's good to like kind of hear it just for what it is, and then to appreciate what it means to actually have a real story that's really impactful.
He said as long as then we all still have jobs, because he's like, as long as there are actors around who'll read the script and say, who wrote this? Then there'll need to be real people around to
Fill in the gaps.
make it better.
So the question is, I mean, why is Hashem bringing it, like, why now? I mean, I think you've answered it, but I mean, if you want to extrapolate more about
Sure.
that,
So,
what does Rabbi Ginsburg say about that?
right. Well, this is from the Lubavitcher Rebbe that he
Yeah.
said the task of our generation is making unifications.
Uh-huh.
That's exactly.
So in order, so that eventually when Mashiach comes, there'll be the revelation of Hashem.
It's all getting to that point of seeing how everything is a revelation of Hashem. Everything in the world. Yeah.
That means we, Bezrat Hashem, are getting closer.
Very close, and it's like
Like such an
skyrocketing, exponential.
I remember my father, Shalom, he worked like for a company like, it was kind of like a Rouse. And I remember their first computer was as big as a room. And he used to bring me like the paper that used to come up, and I always think like, he's been lived for like 20, I don't know, almost 20 years, like, he would be like, boggled to think that he has a computer in his hand like this. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable.
My father had to. My father had to tell my mother that he was going in the computer room and he won't be available to talk to her.
That was a whole room.
It was a whole block.
Waitman's was a room. I mean, it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Yep. So my mentor, Rabbi Moshe Ganuth, is coming Tuesday. So Tuesday night he's speaking at Chabad Persian Youth.
Will be able to understand him?
So this is no, he's a very good speaker, very accessible. So this is Tuesday night, and then next Sunday is our headline event. This is the open house for our Nefesh Academy of Torah Psychology. So it's all day in Beverly Hills, 9:30 to 3:30 at the Residence Inn.
What day is that?
That's next Sunday.
January 15th.
And then Monday he's speaking at Mayan Israel in La Brea.
You say there's something
Is that
else
also in California?
Motzei Shabbos is Tarzana, right? Thank you. At 7:30 at Rabbi Lolian.
How do I get details about that?
I'll send it to you. I have.
Engaged. Haven't seen him in years. I guess we're all getting older.
Where is, Mine in Israel? Is it in California?
It's in La Brea.
Oh.
I think it's 136 or 138 North La Brea.
138.
I wasn't sure if it was in Eretz Israel. I think it was.
So I have tonight as a special Art of Education, which I mentioned during the class. That's $20 for anyone who was. It's a very excellent book. I just have some copies of it, and this is the book that I did together with Rabbi Ginsburg on motivation. And so that's $15 and $20. So, and this is
Venmo, Zelle?
yeah,
Can I get the Art of Education?
Sure.
Yeah, I got the Famous Mind.
sure. And there's Wonders, the weekly Torah booklet. You're welcome to take copies of that. It's filled with a lot of great teachings. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
You have the ability to take.
Thank you so much.